Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. Markets fall for a second day in a row. Sensex dives nearly 500 points. Nifty ends below 16,500. All sectors in the red. All eyes on the US Fed meet. Market watchers expect the FOMC to hike rate by 75 basis points for a second month in a row. Hope the pace of rate hikes will slow down in coming months. Russia's Gazprom to cut gas supplies to Europe via the Nord Stream pipeline, citing maintenance issues. The move could disrupt Europe's plan to shore up gas supplies ahead of winters. Global crude oil prices rebound on hopes of possible rise in oil demand from Europe. 5G auction kicks off to a slow start on day one. Jio, Airtel, Vodafone Idea and Adani in the fray. DOT expects to generate 100,000 crores. Steel prices have bottomed out, says Tata Steel in an exclusive conversation with Business Today TV. Expects margins to improve in the second half of the fiscal. FY22, another breakout year for Adani Group. Our success aligned with India's growth story, says Gautam Adani, while addressing shareholders at the annual general meeting. Adani Group eyes growth beyond India with infrastructure projects. Ashish Kumar Chauhan takes charge as MD and CEO of National Stock Exchange. Chauhan returns to NSE after 2 decades. Appointment comes at a time when NSE is plagued by many corporate governance and legacy issues. It's a meeting of superstars at a glittering function in Mumbai. Tata Sons chairman N. Chandrasekaran doles out life lessons to actor Ranveer Singh, tells him tension nahi lene ka, gyan nahi dene ka. Well, markets today first registering a sharp fall for a second straight day. Investors choosing to stay on the sidelines ahead of the US Fed Reserve's monetary policy outcome tomorrow. Sensex fell 498 points to end at 55,268. Nifty tumbled nearly 150 points to shut shop at 16,483. All sectoral indices closed in the negative, with the IT pocket being the biggest underperformer. Infosys was the top Nifty loser. Other laggards were HUL, Axis Bank, Dr. Reddy's and Kotak Bank. Shares of food delivery platform Zomato continue to bleed. The stock has now lost about 22% in the last 2 sessions. However, brokerage firm Jefferies remained bullish on the counter, suggesting long-term investors buy the stock and maintain a price target of 100 rupees. On the upside, Bajaj Finserv, JSW Steel, Grasim, Bharti Airtel and Power Grid were some of the top blue-chip gainers in today's session. The auction for 5G spectrum got off to a slow start on its first day today. According to reports, the 4 participating companies, Reliance Jio, Bharti Airtel, Vodafone Idea and Adani Data, bid for the spectrum in 4 rounds. The 5th round will begin tomorrow.
All the 4 participants who were shortlisted have actively participated in auction. Target was to complete the entire process before 14th August. Before 15th August, let's say. Start the service will be immediately after that, completing the process, and starting the service will be immediately after that.
When do you expect that, sir?
Somewhere in September, October, we should see the service in the country.
So what's the auction all about? My colleague Sakshi Batra decodes it for us.
Well, that's right. The 5G spectrum auctions have kick-started, albeit on a cautious note, as the bidders are keeping a keen vigil on each other's strategies before they go all out. Remember, this is the country's biggest ever auction of spectrum, a total of 72 gigahertz in 9 different bands of 5G airwaves worth about 4.3 lakh crore rupees are on offer with a validity of 20 years. What's different this time around is that of the 9 bands on offer, the 600, 700 megahertz, 3.3 gigahertz and 26 gigahertz are being allocated for the first time. 5G services for you and me are likely to be rolled out in metros and major cities first. IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw had earlier indicated that about 25 cities will offer 5G connectivity by the end of 2022. The key contenders for this spectrum auction are Reliance Jio, Bharti Airtel, Adani Group and Vodafone Idea. Jio has made the largest earnest money deposit of 14,000 crore rupees, which gives it the eligibility points to buy the largest chunk of auction. Now, how will 5G really change life for you and me? Now, 5G, as we all know, is the sort of fifth generation cellular technology, and what this will do is to give us faster than ever internet speed. While 4G offers speeds of up to 150 Mbps, 5G can give you 10 Gbps download speeds. What this means is that you will be able to download a full-length HD movie just within seconds with 5G. Not only this, the upload speeds, 5G network can actually provide you 1 Gbps, and as compared to the 50 Mbps upload speed on 4G networks. Let's go back 2 or 3 generations to refresh our memory. Remember, the earliest mobile communication generation of 1G was all about voice. It delivered only analog voice. 2G introduced text messages, where download of heavy files took nearly 2.8 days. The transition to 3G brought in mobile data, reduced download speed to about 2 hours. 4G ushered in the era of buffer-free video streaming, and downloads here took about 40 minutes. 5G now is expected to revolutionize mobile networking, as it promises to bring an end to congestion and increase download speeds of heavy files that will take you just about 30 seconds now. But will 5G be more expensive is the question. While there is no confirmation yet on the tariff plans by the telecom companies, but industry experts believe that the introductory prices could be in the similar range as 4G, and then telecom companies, depending on the spectrum auction, how much they shell out, may gradually increase these prices by 10 to 20%.
Thanks for that, Sakshi. Now, while the profits of Tata Steel may have taken a beating this quarter, the company's Europe business delivered a sharp improvement. In an exclusive conversation with Siddharth Zarabi, managing editor of Business Today TV, Narendran, Tata Steel's MD and CEO, talks about steel prices, demand and outlook for the second half of FY23.
The street seems to be happy with the first quarter earnings that you have announced, better than estimates. So what really worked for Tata Steel this quarter?
I think a couple of reasons. One is, of course, our European units did very well. They've had their best ever quarter. They've leveraged the fact that we have a lot of long-term contracts at higher prices, which are negotiated earlier in the year. So that translated into good profits for Europe. In India, we did a good job of selling in the domestic market because exports was no longer an option after the export duty. And I think the team pivoted well and managed to leverage the deep relationships we have in the domestic market, the stockyard network we have, the distribution network we have, and the the brands that we have to sell what we needed to sell. So we didn't have to cut any production, and we sold most of what we produced.
What's your sense as far as the outlook is concerned, both from a point of view of profitability and margins in the weeks and months ahead?
So we will see a margin compression in Q2 because the steel prices dropped between April and June. So Q2 will be more reflective of June prices than April prices. So very clearly we will see a margin compression in this quarter, both in Europe and in India. But we will also start seeing the impact of lower coking coal prices by the end of the quarter. So it will not help us in July and August, but will certainly start helping us in September, and will very clearly help us in Q3 because the coal that we are buying today is $150 cheaper than the coal we bought in Q1. So that will start helping us September onwards. The third thing is we will see a volume expansion. We will see that the sales this quarter in Q2 will be higher than the sales in Q1 because steel prices seem to have bottomed out. Demand is coming back. So we'll be selling at least 500,000 tons more in Q2 than we did in in Q1. In Q3 and Q4, I expect the recovery to be very strong in India, and hence we expect a good Q3 and Q4.
What is your outlook on pricing, since you spoke about that just now, over the next couple of quarters?
I think prices have pretty much reached the bottom for two reasons. One is, if you look at today's prices, the Chinese are not making money at today's prices. They are buying coking coal at much higher prices because they don't buy from Australia. So they're already losing money, and we are seeing production being cut. The other thing which is happening in China is there are steps being taken to address the slowness in the property markets. I think there's a property fund which has just been created 2-3 days back. So I expect the Chinese economy to bounce back and the steel production also to be curtailed a bit, so there will be better balance there. So steel prices, I think, will stabilize now and will start creeping up hopefully in Q3 and Q4, or if not later this month. Even if you look at long products, some long products have already started moving up in the last few days. So we're starting to see more stability and more upside than downside.
Between Q3 and Q4, when do you expect to take a call on hiking prices?
Well, for long products, already the prices have started going up. I think we've already increased prices a bit this month. Flat products, I expect that by September things will start moving up.
Okay. We spoke about the export duty, and the industry has made representations to the government. Do you have any signals as to whether that demand could be met, and if so, when?
So one thing is clear, the government has told us that this is temporary. This is not a permanent measure, because the point we made is India should be exporting a lot of steel. Why should we discourage exports? If Japan and Korea can export 30-40 million tons of steel after importing raw material, why shouldn't India, which has its own iron ore, not be exporting steel? And steel companies basically invest in some of the poorest parts of the country and creates jobs far away from the urban centers. So why should India not be an exporter of 30, 40, 50 million tons, even 100 million tons of steel? So that's a fundamental point. I think the government agrees with that. Just now the measure was more to deal with inflation, and they recognize that in the long term India should be a good exporter and a big exporter of steel. So we expect it to be removed. I don't know when. We hope sooner the better, because if the objective was to keep steel prices at a more manageable level, I think that objective has been achieved. So I think this is a good time to remove the export duty, but let's see what the government does.
Since we spoke about inflation, and you made that point a couple of times, we had just spoken with the Chief Economic Advisor, and one of the key headline points that he made, and he was talking about not just India but globally as well, that perhaps the inflation scare seems to have now reached a point where it's probably peaked. What's your own sense about concerns around inflation, not just in India but in all the other global places that you do business in?
So there are two sides to the inflation, and I think part of it is caused by supply side issues and part of it is caused by demand side issues. So if you look at the supply side issues, in between there was a lot of inflationary pressures because of disruptions of supply chains post-pandemic, and also because of the conflict in Europe. I think all that supply chains have readjusted. Even if you look at semiconductors, for instance, the supply has more or less got balanced. So I think the supply side issues have got sorted out on inflation. On the other side, of course, is if you look at Europe or the US, unemployment is very low. So there's a wage inflation which is going on. Energy costs always a concern, but I think as Europe finds alternate sources of energy, whether it's LNG, etc., or coal, we will see some sort of easing of those kind of pressures.
Gautam Adani has outlined his ambitious plans to step out of India and build infrastructure overseas. Addressing the 2022 annual general meeting of the Adani Group, the billionaire chairman claimed that several countries have approached the group asking it to build their infrastructure. He said that the market cap of the group exceeded $200 billion this year, and that it was only now that the group was really gathering momentum.
While we may look back and feel content, it is only now that we are gathering real momentum. What we have been able to achieve in 2 decades is become India's largest integrated infrastructure business based on a rapid extension into our adjacent businesses. This has resulted in our transformations into an integrated platform of platforms that combines an energy platform with a logistics platform, both of which help us with unprecedented access to the Indian consumer. I today know of no company that has such a unique business model with potential access to an unlimited B2B and B2C market for the next several decades. Dear shareholders, I am an incurable optimist. I always believed India is one of the greatest countries for an entrepreneur to learn, develop, and flourish. Today, I see real drive in the youth to reclaim our economic stature and gain back our position as a primary force in our global affairs.
The private sector lender Yes Bank improved on its bad assets during its Q1 earnings. The gross non-performing assets of the company fell to 13.45% of gross advances versus 15.6% in the last year. Here's an excerpt of the conversation with Siddharth Zarabi, Managing Editor, Business Today TV, and Prashant Kumar, MD and CEO, Yes Bank.
Begin with the big news for Yes Bank investors, which is the formation of the asset reconstruction company. Clearly, it's going to help in cleaning up the balance sheet. What is the plan in this regard, and by when can we expect a zero NPA sort of situation for your bank?
We finalized our partner on 15th of July after almost a year-long process. And they have given us a base bid of 11,183 crores, which is 135% of our net carrying value of the NPA in our balance. So basically, this also demonstrates in terms of that our provisions coverage is much more than the recoverability. And the further recoveries out of those stress assets would add to our profit. After finalization of the partner, we have already launched the Swiss challenge as per the regulatory guidelines. And Saturday was the last day to get the expression of interest. The two large players have participated in this process, and now they will be doing a due diligence and submitting their final financial bid by the end of August. So I think once we are able to do this, we are expecting like in October, we would be able to consummate this transaction, and the bank would remain with the NPA of 1.5 to 2%. And then we can take a call about those NPAs. So basically, the NPAs would come down significantly, and then going forward, we can also make it like a zero NPA.
It was a dream meeting of two superstars, one heading the largest corporate house in India and the other one of the biggest names of Bollywood. A question and answer session at the IAA Leadership Awards saw Tata Sons Chairman N. Chandrasekaran giving some very serious life advice to actor Ranveer Singh.
So I'm always wanting to improve myself as a professional so I can be more high output, so I can achieve excellence more efficiently. And I find this one department in the way that I work that I really need improvement and advice in is time management. Somebody of your stature has probably aced that over the years. Please give me some tips, or us all, tips and advice on time management, sir.
Sir, I believe one thing. Tension nahi lene ka, gyan nahi dene ka. So if I can have 10% of the energy that I see you exhibit, life will be different. I don't know how you do it. Let's give it up for Ranveer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We're honored just to be speaking with you. I would like to tell you, sir, there is one thing common between you and me that I've discovered today. Till I don't lift weights, no, sir, even I don't feel that groundedness and that centered feeling. Every morning I have to lift and punish the metal. लोहा पेलने का फिर लगता है हाँ मैं जिंदा हूँ. Also, sir, I'm at a strange crossroads in my life where I don't know. I'm a little bit confused about my own life choices. I feel like I want to build a legacy, and then this is what I want. This is my desire and ambition for myself personally. I want to build a legacy. I want to look back on a great filmography and a contribution to the arts and to entertainment and feel like I contributed something, you know, that my body of work may live on beyond, that I entertained people while I was there. And sometimes I feel like, does that require from morning to night, from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, a singular focus? You know, every ounce, every iota of my time and energy is devoted towards trying to achieve that one thing versus achieving it through a balance in life. More time for oneself, more time for friends, more time for family. I don't know whether, you know, there is almost like there are two sides to me. One guy who wants to be singularly focused doing one thing only, and another guy who thinks it may be wiser to live a more balanced life. A few words on that, sir.
I know you have a long career ahead, but I still want to already tell you that whatever you want to achieve, already achieved. So already you have made a mark, and already
thank you, sir.
You have you established yourself in more than one way. See, at least from my perspective, I think the two things you are saying is not contrary. I feel focus doesn't mean that you don't do other things. At least I find that my focus gets better and I get better solutions if I'm more balanced. If I just go at one thing like a maniac, I don't think I get an optimal output.
Thank you, sir. I think I have my answer. Thank you so much, sir. I had to hear it from somebody like you, because I'm chasing it like a maniac now, you know, and I feel like there may be a better, more balanced way to do this.